Howdy folks, this is Tony here, and apparently Kamala Harris has chosen Josh Shapiro as her running mate, and I'm going to indicate how I think this is going to affect the electoral map. But before I get into anything, let me show my sources. This is a video from the Democratic campaign, and it lets it slip. Look at this.
Philadelphia, we got work to do.
We're ready to rumble, y'all!
I'm Mayor Sherelle Parker, here with leaders from across our region. Kamala Harris is on the...
Okay, so obviously it's a Kamala Harris campaign video, right? Now let's skip to the juicy stuff. Right here, Josh Shapiro. Let's look at what's going on.
Gonna do right by working people.
And I can't think of a better partner than our Governor Josh Shapiro.
His policy...
So there you have it. Josh Shapiro is Kamala's running mate. So let's revisit the map and see how that's going to make things shake up. Across the Rust Belt, there were a significant amount of uncommitted voters who were basically protesting Biden, mainly because they felt as though he wasn't doing enough to support Hamas or Hezbollah or basically the Muslim population in the Gaza Strip and whatnot. So because of that, it is probable that these people stay home. Of course, they're not going to vote for Trump because Trump supports Israel. Now, why is Josh Shapiro a problem for these voters? Why is this going to affect the race? Josh Shapiro is Jewish and a pro-Israel individual. So as a result, that is likely going to alienate many of those Muslim voters. So to be perfectly honest with you, in a best case scenario, that drops Minnesota down to a tilt blue type of voting scenario here. But I'm actually going to argue that enough Muslims are probably going to stay home in the Midwest that is going to make these two states tilt red. That's already putting the election within striking distance for Donald Trump. Yes, Kamala Harris does better in the Sun Belt because, again, she will appeal to those type of voters in the Atlanta suburbs. But even so, that may not be enough because some of the people that think like this up in Minnesota are down there. So that might even tilt Georgia in Trump's favor. So that's going to basically hand the election to Donald Trump. At that point, it doesn't matter if any shenanigans take place in Maricopa County in Arizona. Won't matter if any shenanigans take place in Philadelphia. Losing Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Georgia is already enough to put Trump over the top. But for good measure, I still think that the remainder of the states on the board are likely to tilt towards Trump, except I have my doubts about Arizona because the Ninth Circuit Court just ruled that they are going to allow voter registration without proof of citizenship, which means that all the cartel has to do is bus a bunch of immigrants or a bunch of illegal immigrants here into Arizona and they vote blue and that's a wrap there. With Virginia, I think that Jason Miyares as Attorney General is going to make it a hell of a lot harder for that to happen. So I still see Virginia tilting into the red category. Now, when it comes to Pennsylvania, will the governor of Pennsylvania being on the ticket by that state or make that state more likely to tilt blue? Unlikely. Here's the thing. Josh Shapiro has supported the transgenderism and other kind of extreme agenda items that are just left-wing and crazy, and he's not been called out on that in the national level because, again, he's just a state-level politician. But put this man on the national stage, and that is going to turn the entire Rust Belt red because this is still filled, these regions are still filled with working-class men who don't want their children getting mutilated or indoctrinated or brainwashed. So Josh Shapiro is so extreme that he might as well be from California with Kamala Harris. The one thing Joe Biden had going for him was that at one point when he was a senator back in, I guess, the 80s or 90s, even though he was anti-gun, otherwise he pretty much governed as a moderate. And a bunch of boomers were able to be hoodwinked into thinking he was still like that and had not been corrupted or, I guess, fully consumed by the socialist hive mind, so they thought of him as Moderate Joe from the early 90s and were willing to give him a fair shake. Kamala Harris has been on the extreme left since the beginning. When she was running in 2020 for the presidency back then, she supported giving free health care to illegal immigrants. She supported open borders. She supported mandatory gun confiscation. She supported all of the banning fracking. That's going to lose Pennsylvania. People are going to look at Josh Shapiro and say, why are you, as the governor of a fracking state, running with a running mate who opposes fracking? You want to kill the economy in your own state. So I see basically all of these states very narrowly going for Trump. And there's a lot of white working class here too. So I actually think that her choice of a running mate updates the map slightly more in Donald Trump's favor. Now, does this mean it's a sure thing? Not necessarily. Again, get out there and vote. Get your friends to vote. Make sure that there are enough ballots that are conservative to make sure this election goes properly and gets the Democrats out of there. And again, be wise about what you do. Be civil, be intelligent. Try to convince as many people that the left is crazy, because they are. But this is what I think happens. She basically is already an extremist and picked another extremist. And I think that if things go properly, they are going to, campaign-wise, their campaign is going to go down in flames. They are not going to be able to win the White House. So this is what I think happens. Let me know what you think in the comments below.